When you're looking for a hydration product, what are the things that you're looking for?
If I'm ever looking for a hydration product, the number one thing I'm looking for is that it tastes good. Like, water has no taste at all. Water's what, like, nature turns to rehydrate, and that's a little bit boring. And then you come down, are you gonna go with sugar? Are you gonna go with sugar-free? And all of this is just conversations point. Does this taste better than the other product? That's it. Jocko Hydrate is delicious. It's got electrolytes. That's between you guys. I don't know what electrolyte is. Frankly, I don't even need one. You could give me more electrolytes than the opponent, I'll beat the opponent. You could give me less than the opponent, I'll still beat the opponent. I can't even spell electrolyte. This has them, whatever that is. And it tastes good, which is really what matters. Jake Paul, Mike Perry, here's what happened. So, this is beyond thought-provoking for me. I have spent a large period of my life trying to learn systematically through a lot of failure, not just my own, also teammates, those around me, the wrong ways to prepare. And I could go into detail about that. I know many coaches' philosophies on peaking and training in season, training off season, when you're working on your body, your strength conditioning type thing, as opposed to your skill building. And I could probably write a pretty entertaining book on ideas that I've come across, but I will tell you this: when you become a parent and you think that perhaps one of your children will come to you for this type of advice, so you screwed it up yourself, or you had trial and error, or things that you'd throw out, and you got to get it right here. Like, that's when the real philosophical part of you starts to take over. I mean, I will find myself in traffic and I'll be thinking about a workout. Okay, that was 2 hours, and I really want to reduce mat time, coming from a wrestling perspective, but it could be anything. In my house, we just got into baseball. And I mean, Coach Gold is showing us techniques and private lessons of baseball that are 30 minutes a week. I need to start doing them every day. So one thing that I've learned about baseball, the 30 minutes is great as opposed to an hour. It's great. For the age of my son, Coach Gold has his attention, and I mean from bell to bell, but if he extended it to 60 minutes, I suppose we'd have to see it. The reason I share this with you is, growing up, there was a large idea, if it came, you're going to play football. Hey, time on the field. Hey, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Time on the field. Get on the field. And there's definitely an idea to that. In wrestling, hey, it's time on a mat. Doesn't matter if you're wrestling. It doesn't matter if you're shadow wrestling. It doesn't matter if you're going live. It doesn't matter if you're in a private workout. It doesn't matter if you're in a team workout. I mean, I could tell you how many times I've heard this. But the other side of it is, I also believe athletes only have so many in the chamber. They can only fire so many times. When do you want to use it? In the sport of wrestling, you're going to get about 10 years. So if you want to use that from 12 to 22, you think college athlete, something like this. You kind of got to be strategic on when you're going to start firing. And sometimes it's younger, it's 7, and I share this with you because when I'm watching Jake Paul, guys, he's rewriting the book. There's no part of me that believes any one of you, any one of us, could jump into something as revealing as boxing in your early 20s, and while still being in your 20s, succeed. There's no part of me. And you must understand the word that I'm using of revealing. There are plenty of people who could have a level of fame, money, contacts, and get drafted into the bigs for any sport. And I'm using the word could. There's places you could put them. There's a lot of places to hide. There's a lot of reasons why you could be drafted. And it's not just your vertical leap or your 100-yard dash. You could be a real great attitude. You could be a real great... There's things that can be needed on teams, but revealing in boxing, you will be out there one-on-one. No shirt on, agreed upon ounce gloves, and a mouthpiece. And no matter how good you are, like there are some people that are just good. You guys ever seen Ryan Garcia? Just to use a recent name. You ever seen him in the gym working out? He can do stuff on a bag. I saw him punching a bag one time, and I saw him reach behind his back and hit the bag, but it's a timing issue. You gotta have this timing issue down. I have no idea how boom, he could be just as fast and come back. I'm telling you, it was a thing of beauty to watch him. He would go into the category that I'm calling good. He has good eyes. He's a natural. He can get in range. He can slip out of the way. He's good. Just for an example. But what Jake Paul is doing, okay, when you're going into the later rounds, when you're going with some of the best guys in the world, whether they're in their prime or not is very irrelevant. Because how good you are is only going to be shown for a few minutes. It's only going to be shown for a few rounds. You then instantly click over to the tough guy business. Are you tough enough to withstand this? Are you tough enough to stay in there? Are you tough enough to keep swinging while keeping your hands up while moving forward? I mean, it takes a massive amount of time to be able to complete a boxing match. A boxing match I'm defining for you as 3 3-minute rounds. To be able to complete that, our golden gloves, our national in the States are really like a New York, for example, a California state champion. These guys that have Olympic aspirations or make it to the final box off, they are struggling tremendously to keep a high pace for 3 3-minute rounds. And it would take years of training, of building lactic acid, of being able to move those feet, just for example. And Jake Paul's never stepped into that environment. I watched him go 8 rounds with Nate Diaz. I watched him go 8 rounds with Anderson Silva. And he was now in there with Perry for a scheduled 10 rounds. It is very, very difficult to knock a guy out in boxing if you don't get him early. And before you tell me of all the boxing matches you've seen that ended late by knockout, no, you didn't. I'm sorry to ruin the main event of WrestleMania for you, but Hogan didn't really leg drop the Giant and covered him, okay? Those guys that you believe you've seen knocked out were wide awake. They were tired and they were ready to go. I don't really want to go down that road right now. What I want to share with you, if you don't get them out of there early, you're very unlikely to get them out of there. And your brain as a competitor has got to know what you're doing. It has to. If you're going in there and you're looking to really hurt somebody or do damage, if you don't get that, your punches don't get harder as the night goes on. By the way, his chin doesn't get weaker. So just basic logic, if you couldn't get him out of there somewhat early, however you want to define that it is by activity more than it is minutes. But if you don't, you then switch right over to how am I going to win a judge's decision? Because that's the other way to win. And Jake Paul well, what should seemingly be exhausted and in the zone that seemingly has switched over to I'm no longer trying to knock you down. I'm no longer trying to knock you out. We're past that point. Is still winning rounds, knocking people down, and knocking people out. And I talk with my partner Ryan about this, and Ryan's been on all sides of it. Athlete, manager, coach. Why is this happening and how? And I don't want to be a Paul hater anymore. I want to have this knowledge in case my son wants to do it. If my son, for example, has Olympic aspirations or wants to be a professional boxer, I'm going to have to get him going by about 9, 10 years old. Andre Ward was an incredible story because he started so late. He was 14. That was it was unbelievable. I might even have that wrong and he was 12. Sugar Ray Leonard was the same way. It was unbelievable because they started so late. It was either 12 or 14. I flip-flop these two one way or the other. My point to you, that is late. That's very late. Paul started in his 20s. So I'm trying to break down the workout. I'm trying to figure out what happened. And one notion that I have, that I'm bringing to you guys, when I go into the gym, when I'm early on in a gym, when I'm trying to pay my gym dues, when I got to do anything that the coach says, that includes sparring with guys that other people don't want to spar with. And if I want to be there the next day, or I want to be elevated, or I want to be one of the names that the coaches put forward because they believe in me, I've got to go in and do that level of sparring when I'm not quite ready. And I'm just wondering. I'm wondering that aspect of it where Paul doesn't have any of that. Because you will hear that iron sharpens iron. Well, iron dulls iron as well. So if you have Paul and you have his situation, you can put just the right training camp together. Is that the leg up that he has? Is that part of it? I realize it's a pie. Is that part of it? Is that the minutes that he had in the gym were all good minutes? Because not all your minutes are. You're a 12, 13-year-old and you got to go, the college kid is back on break and he's 18, he's throwing you around the room and he's toughing you up. I know a lot of people say you got to go in, you got to really get beat up in practice. I know a lot of guys that have never gotten beat in practice. There has never been a day where a man got the best of Tyrell Fortune in practice, just for example. Never happened. He was a heavyweight. He was the biggest guy. He was the best guy. He was the state champion, he was the national champion, he was the world champion. He ran the practice room if he could even find somebody to give him a sweat. That's just one example. And why they tell you that you got to go in, you got to get toughened up. Well, there's only 3 ways you can go. You can have somebody whip you, you can whip somebody, or you have somebody and you're pushing, it's real even. There's not a 4th and a 5th example, so which one of those is best? Because so many people will tell you that you got to get beat on, that you got to pay your dues, but I've never heard of anybody whipping Jake Paul. Guys, if I haven't heard of it. In today's social media, I don't know how you could keep that a secret. I've heard a number of guys that have sparred with him. I've seen a number of guys, George Masvidal, by example, Mike Perry himself, by example, that have either been in the ring or they've watched it. Nobody ever says so-and-so's wearing him out, so-and-so's beating him up. I'm looking here. I'm not there. I'm not there on what's happening, but there is something very unique happening, and I've never seen it, and I don't believe that you have either, in a professional sport. Period. My second sentence is, let alone one this revealing. So there's something within the preparation. There's a tough guy. There's a good athlete. Okay, that's not enough. There's something within the preparation, almost like a secret. And nobody else has it. And I'm looking at it and I'm going to find it. I want it. But something very unique is happening here with Jake Paul.